So, good evening, folks. It's now about 7:15 on Tuesday, February 25th. This is the meeting of the Finance Committee. We have a quorum. We almost have a full crew here tonight. And a new member, Ann Zuniga, who just introduced herself to us. And the agenda is pretty full, but I'm going to go out of order because I invited Dr. Tom Hickey from South Shore VOTEC to show up a little bit early, and he's here, so I think, unless anyone has any objections, we'll have Tom join us to give us his budget overview, and then we'll get back to the agenda. This is being recorded, thankfully, because I've been using the recordings to catch up on a lot of town meetings while I was out, and so this will be recorded and uploaded at an appropriate time. Tom, come on over and join us.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you.
Good
Everyone.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Tom.
Good evening.
I'm Tom Hickey. I've been at South Shore VOTEC for 31 years. I live in Hanson for the last 26. Now you're all caught up to see new faces. Hello, and I'm grateful to be here. Thanks, Kathleen, for facilitating the handout of the presentation. I'll be brief, but I do want to make sure that I'm addressing your questions. Let me start. Did you, Kathleen? Did you receive a second handout or just?
There are two handouts in that packet.
Oh, there are. Okay.
Yes.
So you all have a. Oh, thank you. If you don't mind, Chuck.
Okay. Yep.
This one is all sizzle, and the other one's the steak. That's the one that unpacks the assessment. How did we arrive at the number? This one talks a little more glossy about where we're heading, and in the interest of time, I'll just cherry pick a few slides out of this, and you all can ask any questions you might like. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. So,
Everybody.
this is a modified presentation I would have given to our school committee back in January. I do an overview of our goals and whatnot. I'll direct your attention to the third piece of paper in the presentation, where the top slide gets to some numbers. Okay. So we serve 9 towns, and I can go to Whitman and Hanson and not have to explain the whole regional thing, so I can fast forward 5 minutes into that. So our overall budget increase is proposed at 4.44%. That includes all operating expenses and a little slice of capital. When we bring an assessment number forward, like in the warrant, it's one number. So we don't have a separate capital ask that goes to 9 separate town meetings. Our regional agreement says you mush it all together. So within that number, there's a little bit of capital, which I'll explain in a moment. I'm also calling out debt service because, as you probably know, the building project has passed, and so we're starting to get ready for that next chapter, and there'll be some design development. So we're going to borrow a little bit of money and pay interest only for fiscal 26, and then hopefully I'll continue to tell you this story that in 27 and 28 we'll do the same. But I'll explain that as well. This is probably the most important slide. So we think these are the big story headlines for us. We're up 19 kids, which usually that means with an increase of enrollment, you should expect to be like the coins are going to fall out of the slot machine from the state on Chapter 70. Not so. And I think part of the reason is that if the K-12 district enrollments drop slightly and ours go up, it means the state takes that formula and they just shift the dollars. So you don't necessarily see the result. So Chapter 70 is a very modest increase, all things considered. I think most districts are finding the same difficulty with Chapter 70, and I don't need to go into the whole harmless story of what that looks like for districts. We do see in the governor's budget a regional transportation projection of closer to 90%. We are going to go with that number, and if we're wrong, we're going to have to eat the difference. But in the past, we have had numbers hovering in the 80% range. So regional school districts get transpo covered. It's a 1-year lag. So we're projecting that we can increase our regional transpo assessment on paper, and thus what's left would be essentially about 10% of our transpo costs will divvy up amongst our 9 towns. That's a political football. It's not protected like Chapter 70, so you got to really wait until late in the legislative cycle to see where does regional transportation land. The third bullet, which I think is important to point out, is that I'm proposing to the school committee that for the first year of this project, we will pull from our stabilization fund the amount of money necessary to cover any interest costs for the first year of the project, which we're projecting, if all the planets align in the interest rates, but we're projecting there's about 315 grand of interest. So when I show you that second handout, and I'll just point it out to you, I'll remind you that I said this, that we're going to show an increase we're showing an increase of debt service divvied up amongst the towns, but we're also showing a revenue source from our stabilization fund to offset it. We've got more stabilization money thanks to the feasibility reimbursement. We came in about 300 grand under budget, which was, we budgeted like 2 million. We had it in stabilization. We got about 55% back. So the good news here, when the financial advisor says, Tom, you really shouldn't do too much of this, because what I said to him was, we got about, I think it's like 1.2 million. I said, well, why don't we just push the 1.2 million right back in? We'll cover the interest in 26. We'll cover the interest in 27, which will probably be double that number. And he said, well, why don't you wait until you see what the bond ratings look like? Because if you have a little more liquid cash, I said, okay, fine. All right, I guess that's why you do your job. Okay, that makes sense. But by fiscal 28, there's no reason why we can't take that stabilization money and figure out a way to push it back in, because we're allowed to save the money. We saved it for 6 or 7 years. We got invited into MSBA. We did the thing. We got the feasibility done. And so that money is there. That money's not there to put a pool on the roof. It's there to push back into the project. So we will bide our time and listen to the advisors. But this is, at least in my view, with 9 towns, and with each town taking a slightly different look at, okay, the VOC thing got approved in January, but now we've got to go ask our own voters, when do we want to get them on board to pay for it? Because the town is obligated. I've got some towns that will ask their voters this spring. I've got others that might call a timeout and wait another year, because maybe that sucks too much oxygen away from an operational override conversation, that and a debt exclusion. So in any event, this allows me to say to town leaders, it's not a ton of money, but it is a first step to say this will not a penny of taxpayer money under the raise and appropriate levy limit would go towards this interest. Especially if you're not a town that is going to go ask voters for a debt exclusion, say this spring. So I know that was a lot, but that's a very unique point to make in terms of as we embark forward. The cost drivers, same story all over the place. Plymouth County retirement, we pay into that as well. They draw a line. I mean, I think they were headed at fiscal 29. Now it's been moved to fiscal 31 or 32 or something. So everything's going to be perfect apparently in fiscal 32 when all these big gobs of money drop off, and we're just waiting for that. But we got whacked with about 100 grand health insurance, and because we added Marshfield last year and we've added some late bus runs, we'll see an increase in transportation. My capital budget I've cut from last year. I want to, and that was a deliberate decision, because we redid our long-range capital plan. The only capital that I'm focused on now is vehicles, school vehicles. We own our own or lease our own buses. We employ our own bus drivers. So we're going to keep the school clean and we're going to keep it safe. But we're not investing another penny in anything that is deemed unnecessary. So if I have a capital ask over the next 3 years, it's going to be to make sure that we have enough money to replace a few buses every year. So that 90,000 is probably not a sustainable number, but it's good enough for now. And because we also have you may sometimes see our shop vans around where they pull trailers and whatever. So that would replace the equivalent of maybe a shop van and a trailer. So we have a capital matrix out about 10 years showing when we need this stuff replaced. So the yellow line underneath, these are some, in the last few years I've been doing this, trying to incrementally move grant-funded positions onto the budget. Not with a lot of fanfare, a bit of deliberateness. If you were to ask me that, if we had to cut this budget, like if it came to it, I would look at these positions and the capital up above for the 90 grand. Now those are probably the two parts of the budget that I could survive if we had to. My plan in the method here of these 4 bullets in yellow, the electrical and horticulture teacher, moving them from a federal Perkins grant, my goal is that the grant that they're on would eventually be cleared off of personnel so I could use it to fund to open the veterinary science program that is part of the new school. And so we get about 150 grand, which, that's probably a teacher and health insurance and maybe some paper clips or something like that. But that's the idea is if I can clear off that federal entitlement grant, and let's assume the sky isn't going to fall on all federal grants. I don't think the sky is falling, but I've been moving these incrementally even without perhaps what's being talked about at the federal level. And then an English learner position and a special ed team chair position, which we had been funding out of Medicaid receipts. And those are also getting more and more difficult. We're not seeing those receipts come in a robust way, so I want to begin to strategically migrate that onto the budget as well. That's probably the other slides are informative. We get some great grant money. We run some really great night school programs. The state's been good to us. I think the other slides that would interest you would be some enrollment look back. If you're not familiar with Whitman's enrollment history, this is worth just a couple of minutes. And then I'll pivot over to the assessment numbers. You'll see Whitman, the aggregate numbers at the top. If you see numbers in yellow, that's when we had more non-resident students. They changed the regulations. We phase it out. There's obviously demand. We've got 425 applications for about 180 seats. I don't see that demand changing. That's a pretty significant demand. Then why the heck is Whitman's enrollment, according to this thing here, it says Whitman's enrollment is down 18 students. And so that's why ultimately what I'm going to be bringing to you tonight is an ask of less money than last year, largely driven by this. And for folks who have heard me blab on about this over the last couple of years, the reckoning is that Whitman, more than any other community in recent memory, has had white-hot demand, and there have been available seats from communities that haven't filled their allotment. Cohasset, Norwell are members of our district, and up until the last 3 or 4 years, the towns of Hanover and Scituate. And so if you add a new 9th town, Marshfield, you bring in the roommate, they help pay some of the bills, but you got to make room on the couch for them. And part of that is making room on the couch is that now we've got to deal them in for the next few years in the same size building. So part one is we got a new roommate. But the other part, in all honesty, even without Marshfield, is that we've been watching enrollment trends from Hanover and Scituate, two decent-sized communities in terms of their 8th grade population, and they're now filling or nearly filling, where 5 to 10 years ago, they were leaving 10-plus seats on the table. I would predict, and I don't say this with enthusiasm, if you're in a I got to balance the budget mood, you'll like what I'm about to say. If you're in a kids have less access, you're not going to like what I'm about to say, and that is I would expect that this number will continue its market correction until the new building opens. Simply because Whitman is a town that seeks us with great demand, but its 8th grade population is average. It's about an allotment of about 20 to 21 seats. So I would see in the next few years, the 9th grade group of kiddos coming in from Whitman might hover around 25. Whereas if you look back and see like 165, 151, yeah, we were probably placing 40. So there will continue to be that bit of a market correction. Will that result in lower operational assessments? I think it will. I'd have to come in with like a gajillion % increase to not. I mean, there's always some cost increase here, but I think that we're going to see that. And then here's the sucker's bet, right? This is not permanent. I think this is going to be a U or a V or whatever the best shape is. I think at some point, I don't think it's ever going to get back to the market share that it might have been. That's going to depend on operating budgets well into the 2030s of being able to add more staff and bring more kids in. I believe the demand from this community will not change in the near future, but I do think it's going to be a slow. And then there'll be a slow uptick. That's where I think the future goes. But with all your energy being on next year's budget cycle, this will allow me to pivot over to this other document, if you don't mind. And this is rather lengthy. I hope you enjoy this. But and you can reach out to me. I'll be happy to chat with you offline anytime if you'd like a slower walk through this. On the back of the first piece of paper, we'll show you a lot of numbers. The top part of the page shows you revenues, like where are you getting this money from to fund this budget. And I'll just walk you through the revenue sources. It's our taking the governor's Chapter 70 number. There's that modest 51 grand. So you can see the 26 column. You can compare it, look left to right. You can see your one-year comps. We do have a handful of kiddos in the upper class grades that are not in the district. We collect tuition and we divvy it up, and basically we take that money and we use it as an offset for the next fiscal year. That's what non-resident tuition means, 6 students. Transfer from excess and deficiency. This year we took 125 grand to cover the cost of the special district election. That was a one-off. Whatever money we don't use for that is just going to end up dropping to the bottom, and we'll put it back into E&D. Fortunately, I think our total costs are probably going to hover around, maybe around 70,000. So that's good news. We were kind of ballparking that, looking at some other recent elections. There's that transfer from the stabilization fund I mentioned to cover that interest. Marshfield stabilization contribution. Part of the terms and conditions of Marshfield joining is that they had to pony up a share of our stabilization fund as of mid-2024, and we let them phase that in over time. So what we're doing is we're taking that money and we're using it as an offset for the towns, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. There's that regional transpo. We're going in with the higher number, that 90%, and then we have the budget. We subtract all those revenue sources, and then the delta is what ultimately gets divvied up amongst the towns. And that's where you see, so 4.44%. Then, so if you wanted to know this, like the gross number, it's 6.42%. If you were really measuring point A to point B, and that's with the debt service included as well. In the middle of the page, you can find the Whitman line. So our ask for Whitman for fiscal 26 with 147 students is 1,650,218, a reduction of 143,109. And then at the bottom of the page, it's those same numbers with just simple division showing per pupil comparisons. We have found over the years that folks just like to see it boiled down, because the Chapter 70 formula does take into consideration a town's ability to pay. You will see a range of per pupil costs, and they have been like that since forever, since ed reform. They've just been like that. So that back of the first page, can I pause there and see if there might be anything you might want me to clarify? Okay, and I think, Kathleen, I'll just pick this next page and then I'll stop, okay? And then anything else I'll be happy to follow up. But this next page just takes that, if you can find the Whitman column on the far right, it takes that number and it kind of breaks it down. So of the 1.65 million, there's the number in blue with the white numbering there. That's the minimum local contribution, the 1,475,000. That's the number that we all wait for after the governor's numbers drop. Everything after that is either a reduction because we've got a revenue source, or it's based on our regional agreement. So I'll quickly walk you through how the sausage got made here. Whitman's share of the non-resident tuition, minus 26 grand. Whitman's share, if you will, of the, what would Whitman's share of the debt service interest have been? 72 grand. There's your offset there. This next line, which it is blank, but it should have said Marshfield. That's the Marshfield money. So there's Whitman's haircut from the Marshfield money being recycled back to lower the assessment. The next line, it says above the minimum contribution. That's all operating costs, not including transpo, which is the next line, but Whitman's share of operating the schoolhouse, not capital, not transpo. Then you see Whitman's share of the transpo line. So you take 90% off the top of the costs. That leaves you with 119 grand of transpo. Whitman's shares, that is a 25 grand or so. Then that $90,000 capital line I mentioned earlier for vehicles, there's Whitman's share of capital. And then you have Whitman's share of debt service, which matches the transfer from stabilization up above. The rest of this document is truly then providing the backup to well, show me those enrollment numbers, and how did you do? I know you're doing a rolling average for this and a 3-year look back. Blah, blah, blah. It's all there. And if you do want to take the numbers, connect them to enrollments, and see how we came up with. No, when you have time and if you're interested, I'd be more than happy to walk you through this if it would help orient you to how we got here. And the last few pages of the document are just an overview, a budget overview, and a few pages we think are important from the DESI website. If you ever get a chance to look at the Chapter 70 page on the DESI website, make sure you've had your favorite caffeinated beverage. But when you find the pages that there's a lot of good information there. You just have to be willing to find it and see where these big numbers are coming from and what the heck is going into the minimum local contribution. So, yes, so in summary, asking for less probably will be the same in the next couple of years. Not a forever story, but certainly the story right in front of us.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure. Happy to be here.
Other than going through a tutorial on the statutory method, which would take a little bit longer, but I will some night. Are there any questions about the budget request from the superintendent?
Do a great job every year.
Thank you. Thanks. It's easier when the numbers have a minus in front of it. Right? But it's just it's a mirage. It's a mirage.
And congratulations on the successful building, Coach.
Thank you.
That's huge.
Yeah. Everybody's support meant a lot,
Nice
and
pass.
Yeah.
I felt it felt special with Whitman in light of your town is at the top of the list with competing capital projects, a perfect storm of capital projects, and yet, for those who were able to come out and vote, it was nice to see all 9 towns, vote the way they did. So we're off to design development now.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It is, certainly is. Very happy about it too.
Okay, well,
Any questions? Okay.
you know how to reach me if something else comes up.
Work to do.
I can say from years of experience, if I email Tom on a Friday afternoon and say, I don't expect to hear from you till Monday, 20 minutes later I have a response. So the email is the best way to communicate, not a phone call, because that's too much.
Yeah, and it's tough to remember what everybody says, so use it as a trail of,
Yes.
Documentation.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what it's there
Reports
for.
back about it too. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
2 years ago, you said.
Yeah.
I probably did.
That was 2 years ago. You wrote.
I wrote. That's right, I wrote.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, nice to see you. Nice to meet you all.
Yes.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. And I will, because we have 4 new members, I will go through the statutory method. It's not that hard, but it's a lot of what does the minimum local contribution mean and how is it calculated. And I spent a lot of time with my friend Dawn Byers back in 2020. She taught me the statutory method, and then I taught this committee the statutory method. And Rick and I wrote an article in the Whitman-Hanson Express explaining the statutory method and how Whitman had been overpaying its assessment because of the failure to follow the statutory method by the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee. So it cost us as a town over $5 million.
Yeah, over
Over the period of
year
about
period
4 or
of
5 years.
Yeah,
Really?
Yes,
Yeah, so-
significant money.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it would, if we were not following the statutory method now, fiscal 25, we would be paying more than $1.5 million than we're already paying. And we are the poorer town, comparing us to Hanson. We pay more than Hanson does. They keep saying, why are we paying more when you have more kids? They are not paying more. They're paying more per pupil because they are assessed at the rate at which the DOR, Department of Revenue, believes they are able to pay. We pay less per pupil, but we've got more kids, so we pay a lot more money than Hanson does. We're at 19 million. I think they're at 14 million. Right? And they still talk about the elephant in the room.
Yes, and I can.
Superintendent Hickey's report shows that the Whitman versus the Hanson
Absolutely.
on VOTEC, they've been doing that statutory all along.
And they've never complained about the social VOTEC being statutory, so
Yeah.
go figure.
And I will just say that, over the last 5 or 6 years, there was some other members who are no longer on the committee, but they also, some of them had a role in just identifying, some discrepancies and looking a little deeper, in whether it be the amount of roads, the mileage for the roads, and just little ways to get money back. That was big, overpaying. So, it's all it is just getting a bunch of sets of eyes on it, and if you just kind of try to keep an eye on things, and if something comes up and you question it, it could turn into a good saving.
Well, that's what's tough. You work a full-time job, and then you get back one Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And for me, like, all I can really bring to the table is this one night when you talk to the person and get their side of things, and they do this for a job. So of course their presentation is going to be great and it's going to look awesome, and, you know, but it's not till after when you start looking at it that
that we're
pull
kind of
something out.
saying.
Yeah, you're like,
Yep.
And that can, you know, that some of these things that were discovered starts as discussion and doesn't really turn into anything until like a year later.
well, yeah.
You know what? You know,
a lot of things here. That's
yeah, and any time, I mean, I've been somebody who I work a lot, and I don't always have as much time as others, but you know, you just do the best you can. You offer what you can.
right.
You know.
And I want to thank you, Chuck, because I should acknowledge Rosemary Conley, who's no longer
Yes.
a member of this committee, but she was a fireball when it came to identifying things that didn't look right. And she really got a lot of things going in Whitman's favor.
Yeah, and then non-mandated busing was something we really
still
looked
working
at.
on that.
Still dealing with that.
Still
We've been able
working
to,
on
you know,
that.
look at that a little closer, cut that down a couple $100,000 a year.
Yes. I
So
would have been paying $500,000 2 years ago if we hadn't,
Yep.
Rick and I and Rosemary pushing the superintendent to
Yeah.
look at it.
so
$500,000 is not chump change. It's a lot of money to be
And then-
busing kids.
So how did you come into decide? Like, how did you get to that point? Looking into that.
I nagged the superintendent. I said it doesn't make sense that we have a fewer percentage of our students riding a bus, and we're paying. They have this convoluted language in the regional agreement
Of course.
that says we will divide the assessment for mandated busing, kids who live 1.5 miles or greater, and it's reimbursed by the per pupil method. And then for the non-mandated, the kids who live within a walking distance, that each town will pay for their own pupils. And I said, this is the most contrived, convoluted language. No other regional agreement has it. And I gave them a list of agreements I read online. I want the language to be consistent, divided by per pupil. 60-40. Because we lose out both ways. We're paying for transportation for mandated, that we have fewer kids riding the bus because we're a much smaller town, 7 square miles. They're about 18 square miles. And then we have more kids who are bused because of the walking distance, so we don't want your kindergarten children to be walking where there's no sidewalk. So we are paying 100% of the cost for our kids who could be walkers, and 60% of the total cost of mandated busing, when we're only about 40% of that cost. So get your act together, regional agreement, and have a consistent language that treats us fairly. And to this year, I've done the fiscal 26 analysis. We have a meeting tomorrow night. It would be a shift of about $50,000 off of Whitman's back onto Hanson's.
They'll be happy with that, won't they?
Oh, they love me when I walk in the room, but
Yeah.
fact is fact.
It is that. It's, you know, you're like, welcome back.
I love spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. And I'm not working full-time anymore, so I do have the time to.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Now people are really in trouble. You have more time.
Thank
A
you.
lot of it does come down to it just doesn't look right, doesn't pass that sniff test.
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, you may not catch it the night, but after you go back and you reread some of these things and you listen to the conversations we had and you think about it, you're like, wait a minute,
We're just
the numbers
experience
don't-
it,
yeah, exactly.
You know? It's really what it's.
yeah, and we can always go back and ask. So then you read the room.
Okay, so I'm going to revert to our posted agenda. We are on to subcommittee reports. We've met with our one budget manager, and you guys have been great. As you know, I've participated, but my goal is to get out of here after 90 minutes, a 90-minute meeting, and after that, your brain is fried. So, Mike, you've done an amazing job, and yet I think everyone feels engaged in the meeting, so I don't want to spoil that record. So we have a set of meeting minutes that Elizabeth
Well, she
gave us.
printed off a bunch, but not quite enough for everybody.
I'm fine, because I have them electronically. So the only minutes that we need to approve tonight are
February 11th.
February 11th.
Oh,
And I am not going to read page by page. Is there any changes, corrections, revisions that you'd like to make? And once you're comfortable having read the minutes, I will entertain a motion to accept them.
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Mike.
Second it.
Thank you. Is it Jason?
Yes.
No, it's Justin.
No, no.
I actually called you Jason when you walked in, so it's clearly distinct.
Okay. All right,
Just to say Jay.
But that's
any discussion on them? All in favor of accepting these minutes, please raise your hand. Against? Abstain?
Abstain.
So we have 3 abstentions. We have 8 people, so that means there's 5 yes. So the minutes are carried. Subcommittee reports. I'm the representative to the Capital Committee. We met last Thursday. I'll tell you it was a very frustrating meeting because the chair did not have the capital items for us. I made a motion to adjourn very quickly. We are meeting twice in March 6th and March 20th. This town administrator has begun to compile the capital items. I also compiled them and shared them with her, what we've received from the budget department heads. So on hopefully March 6th, we will have a more productive meeting March 6th and have something for us, for me to report back after the March 6th meeting. Whitman Middle School Building Committee, we met this afternoon. It was a virtual meeting at 4:30. The vote was whether or not to, in addition to awarding the contract to Fontaine Brothers for the school, and the contract came in $15 million under budget. It has a $106 million budget for the construction. Fontaine Brothers came in at $91 million. Yes, so that's a cause to celebrate. But we needed to consider whether or not we would add, because we've had it on this, if we have a savings, will we add? And the first thing was to consider, should we add solar panels? And our
Used to sell solar.
our architects did a terrific job of showing the cost-benefit ratio, and it's going to take more than 30 years to recoup our investment. So the committee voted no. And we'll pursue something called a power purchase agreement, which has nothing to do with our current architects. That will be after the fact. But the school will be ready to accept solar. All of the infrastructure will be built. It's just we're not going to buy the panels and incur the maintenance. Mm-hmm. And so that was the major event this afternoon. And we meet again March 25th.
Okay, a question on that. The builder, how many submissions were there?
We initially had 5 pre-qualified contractors, general contractors. One decided not to bid. Another one at the last minute said, no, I just got a big contract, so I'm out. So we had 3 bids. And they were all significantly under the 106. Fontaine Brothers was at $91 million. The other 2 contractors were in the 90s.
Okay.
And we asked both our project manager and our architect, are you surprised it came in so low? And both of them said no. There used to be a lot of work out there, so that's why you got fewer contractors bidding, and the bids were higher. And now these companies, they're running out of work. They want to keep their employees employed, so they bid so that they could get the job. So we actually lucked out economically.
Yeah.
The timing for us was perfect now.
All right, well, that makes me feel good. That at least they were all in the 90s. Sometimes you got to worry, like, if the low bid, sometimes you go with the low bid. Are you getting good quality people? But if everybody feels that if they were...
AI3 is our architect and Colliers is our project manager. They both have significant experience working with Fontaine Brothers, and they recommend them highly. So they were enthusiastic about that. And the other issue that was raised was, what about the tariffs? Will that affect the bid? And the answer is if the importing of building materials,
Steel.
Yeah, who does that fall on?
I think we get a lot of steel
Lumbers
from
Canada.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is, because it's an MSBA-funded project, the contractors know that they are risking.
It's at a risk.
This is not a secret. These are not things that only a few people know about, that there might be some tariffs impacting. So they will not be able to dramatically increase their cost. There are some mechanisms for asking for remediation, but the project manager said it is highly unlikely that the MSBA would entertain. They know what they're doing when they submit the bid, so,
So is there something in the proposal that says once submitted, you can't raise?
correct.
They probably incorporate in the price anyways.
Usually,
Well, yeah,
Anticipating, you know.
Yeah.
you have an
There's
overage, it's
a-
always like 10% or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
30.
All right, well, that's good news.
It is very good news.
Good news.
And then my third committee is the Regional Agreement Amendment Committee. We meet tomorrow at 5 o'clock. I've already done the analysis of the fiscal 26 transportation because I've looked at the school budget, and I will send out a copy of my analysis of the school budget to you later this week. I gave it to Jeff first to say, here's the 32 questions that I have for you to address in terms of the changes in the budget, both up and down. But I've done the Regional Agreement Amendment Committee, the transportation analysis for fiscal 26. I do it every year. Hanson doesn't want me to do it. I said, well, you can do it yourself, or somebody at the school department can do it, but the numbers don't lie. Here are the numbers, you do the analysis, and you tell me. So that's tomorrow night's big item on the Regional Agreement Committee is transportation. And the plan is to try to get something to town meeting in 2026 because of the timing of who has to, first the school committee has to approve it, then DESI has to approve it, then the towns have to approve it, then it has to go back. So there won't be anything for the towns to consider in fiscal 2025, but hopefully May of 2026 we will have an amended regional agreement. And then I think I'm going to take the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District audit off of this agenda. I did listen to the presentation. It was exactly what I expected, nothing. It didn't show that our school department is spending more or less than the other 5 districts that they compared it to. So it was not a forensic audit. It was just a comparison. I could have done 90% of it myself looking at DESI information. So I think that's going to be put to bed. So I'm going to take that off our agenda in the future. And then the Public Works Department Building Committee, that Rick Anderson continues to report to us. And I'll be honest, I lost track of where we were. I know he's annoyed that there was some winter failure to be vigilant in protecting some of
Yeah,
the
they didn't have
construction.
winter protection up.
Okay.
Yeah, they just put, and then it's like strapping. You drive by, it's strapping with like plastic on it blowing in the breeze.
Yeah.
And they have guys working in there. So how this slows production when you guys are freezing.
Yeah.
I don't get as much done in the cold days.
Yeah.
You know, breaks coming in.
What about damage?
And, you know,
The property damage too, isn't it?
I didn't see. I don't know what property damage. I was just saying.
I
I just drove him by the other day. I just thought, man, that looks like a cold job site.
That just reminded me, I think what the contractor is looking for is an extension of the date of completion, and
Due to
the
the
committee is not the
inclement-
least bit interested in
Due to
that.
inclement weather and guys not probably coming to work and
Yeah.
Yeah,
not
if
being
you want,
working
I'm
conditions like that.
looking at his report now.
I'm on a
And-
job doing that right now.
Oh my God.
So Rick's report, just to relate to what we were just talking about. Yeah, on site walk down 2725, reviewed masonry progress, substandard winter protection, concern for modification of individual window assembly, and observed manpower deficiencies. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that sounds
You
like
have
they
to spend a little
weren't
money.
happy.
It's the protection. And
Yeah.
guys will show up when you have a heater going in a building.
Yep.
Covered. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's happening on the job site I'm on right now. Guys, whole companies are pulling out, on large scale jobs like schools. I'm down Woodsville right now that at the Port Authority building and the new steamship authority, the ticketing booths, and it's a 2-year job. It's all figured down there in Woodsville,
It's all tied in here, though,
and
right?
it's
Government job.
It's government,
Yeah,
but the
understood.
companies that these guys are working for, that are, I work with them on multiple jobs, and they're like, I'm out. We're gonna go work at another job that's, warm. When the general contractor has this place closed in, we'll come back.
Yeah.
Well, the GC's like, well, now I need guys right now to put up temp, walls, and it's plywood 2x4s with a temporary heater, not plastic, and guys come back. They'll be back, in a week instead of,
Instead of
a month,
few weeks or a month.
2 months. It's April, right around the corner, maybe,
Funny how that works.
Can I ask for a volunteer to take over not that there's anyone currently doing it, just reporting on the Public Works Department building that Rick sends us? because it's not going to be me. I've got 3 committee assignments.
If you wanted to.
Mike, you would be perfect for it, 'cause
Yeah,
you get it. So
absolutely.
you will get Rick's report, and then you can just enlighten us in terms of how things are going.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Will he just email that to me?
I will. I'll make sure that Rick,
So you'll just forward it, or Rick
I'll
is
ask
just-
Rick, well, you know Rick, I will
I
ask
know.
Rick to send
It's
you.
10% more than you
I
get
know.
now, okay?
I know, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He's good.
Okay, and then I have 2 things. One of them is, as I said earlier, I did do the school budget analysis, and it's a bird's eye view with the 32 questions that I've sent Jeff, and I will send that to you now that Jeff has it, so he's had time to sort of process it. Because it's the biggest budget, it's a $66 million budget, and so you can see, and it's a learning curve. My first year, I was overwhelmed, and I'm still pretty good at budgets, but I said, holy cow, how do you even make heads or tails of a budget this big? But I have a process, so I'll send that to you so you'll have something to start with. And then if you have questions on the school budget, you'll at least have some initial information. And the last thing I have is that we need to submit the Finance Committee's annual report for the annual report. And I have not yet come up with a draft. Now, there are 4 members who don't have to contribute much because you weren't here for the bulk of the work. But I'll put together a rough draft by this weekend and email it to all of you. And then next Tuesday when we meet, we can discuss, is there anything, any additions, subtractions, corrections? Have I forgotten something major? But I have this last year. I'm quite honestly going to cut and paste from Rick's fiscal
Rick's from last
25, of whatever it is,
Actually,
fiscal
that was
24.
Yeah.
But there are changes. I mean, our Stansted town meeting last May is a significant event that needs to be memorialized. Why did we do it, and what was the outcome? And hopefully there's going to be a different narrative for this May.
Yeah, hopefully.
That we are, I think there's a spirit of cooperation and preparation on their part, that we're not getting a message in April that they're going to put an override on the ballot. And as I said at town meeting, where are the signs? Yes or no, where are the signs? Where's the work that needs to be done? So I'm encouraged that we're going to have at least education, time to educate the towns in terms of what's at risk. Mm-hmm. Mike?
They brought up, like, have we been talking about it amongst ourselves at this group? And we haven't. You know what I mean? Where does everyone here stand on that 3-year, 1 year?
Okay.
Over, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
I know, you're trying to make an
No.
agreement, but
No, 8:30. If we started at 7, 8:30 is the 90 minutes, so we've got plenty of time to talk.
yeah, I was just
I'll kick us off. I mean, I said it in there. I prefer in multi-year. I just don't think you go back to the town every single year and say, oops, we need more money. Oops, we need more money. Because that's what it is. The interpretation is, oops, you didn't actually figure out the budget right. If
What's
you have to
going
come
to
back-
happen in 3 years, though, too, Mike?
Well, so, which is why, to me, this is a compromise. If we do a 1 year now, and come back and say, all right, let's actually do a forward projection. We've heard all these people come in. I threw it in there with the fire hydrants, right?
things
Yes.
could happen.
DPW
Things
says,
could go
like,
sideways.
our sewer injectors are 37 years old. Well, sewer's either going to go down the pipe or back in the house, and that's what he's telling us. So he knows what's happening.
17 of
All of these folks know these things. That's what I want to see them come in and say, okay, to keep this town going into the next century, what do we need to invest? And then we can look at it and say, here's what it's going to cost us. Not for new buildings, just to keep the stuff we have.
Yeah.
And the same thing with all the other, everything. I don't care. Put it down there. Not a wish list to make it, a huge, metropolitan whatever force, but you just give us something that's going to keep us alive. But right now, they literally go in year by year. You can't project that.
Kathy, do you know, Mike, you guys, the prior, obviously the COVID-19, all these ARPA monies was a big issue. We had a big influx of employees or added bodies, and we never took it into consideration. Some departments didn't want to take it into consideration, and our budgets never went down; they just went up. And has anybody talked to the selectmen about that and saying what was our entire employees 2018 or 2017 2018
That's not the conversation, Al, right?
Right.
The conversation is, we want to level fund the budget, keep the services we have.
Yeah.
And as you said,
Yeah.
when we added people,
Right.
which added services,
Correct.
on temporary one-time funds,
That's right. Yeah.
we broke all the rules by doing
Right, and that's the problem with that. Now we have no,
Everywhere.
we're not going to have money for
A
capital.
lot of places.
That's why everything is at where it's at.
Yeah.
Where it came from.
It just exacerbated the
Right.
problem.
Okay.
But
My issue with the 3 year, and I was on board with it at first, but so what if we don't have enough for the second year to cover it? Or what if we have too much?
which
So-
remains,
We'll never have
But
that money.
my also, what annoys me is like, not annoys me, but my concern is we have 3 huge capital projects coming on in the next few years. And if we say we have an extra $500,000 of the second year override, that's extra $500,000 that could have went into the taxpayers' pocket. Like, they didn't have to pay that, and they're paying it. And they also have these 3 huge projects going on. So I would rather. And if we're
Right.
like less than what we're
Yep.
projecting,
but there's the thing is, we can project more reasonably based if we know what the costs are. And then we can make a decision. Do we want to do an override that will generate $500,000, but we're going to pay down the debt on one of those buildings? We're going to get out of the 30-year loan in 29 years or 28 years. I don't want to hear.
yeah, but
I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, but is that going to happen?
Well,
Or to go to?
so this is
Like,
Dan's
I mean,
point, right?
something
What if they
more.
don't? They all say we'll go up 3%. They come back. They well, I need 10%. I have a very easy answer for that because I'm from a private sector. I need a new department head.
Yes.
You didn't keep your budget, so I'm going to cut you, and I'm going to cut your department brutally because this is where it was. Now, I'm saying that really simply because there's some departments where that's not easy, and some places where it's actually you can't do it for legal purposes, right? We are a town, we're not a private company, but we have to hold somebody accountable for keeping the budget.
And I want to interject here that if we do a multi-year override, all we would be doing is setting the new levy limit. It does not mean that we would approve budgets that spend to the levy limit. So it's not that we would have another $500,000 coming into the town. We wouldn't. If the levy limit is then increased by $3 million, and we only need $1.8 million, that's $1.2 million that we don't send out to the taxpayers. It's like next year we have $1.2 million to sort of crawl up. So increasing the levy limit by a certain amount does not mean you're going to bill the taxpayers by that amount. It means that for the next 2 or 3 years you've got some breathing room. You don't have to go back every year saying we need another override. But what I said at the select board meeting is like, right now I like having the reins on some department heads who are just chomping at the bit to come in with wish lists that are insane.
She mentioned the fire truck. The new fire truck won't fit in that fire station. It won't fit. It's
understand, right.
100% the truck that he was talking about. So that
He said it would fit.
Well, he said
No,
he wants a new fire station.
That would be a capital item.
with a yep, and
Did
he's
he say
putting
to build a special one where the ladder was configured differently?
Yeah.
And that was going
Yes.
to cost X amount of
He has to
dollars
buy
to fit in the
But
current.
So instead of
structure.
buying the cheaper truck that fits in that one, you want to buy the more expensive one that's going to have to fit.
Maybe it'll fit in the
To be
armory
fair,
and
though,
they'll
if you
reconfigure
haven't gone in the
armory,
fire
who knows?
station,
Right, it's all cribbed
Compact.
up
go
on there.
downstairs and look.
Yeah.
Oh, have you gone downstairs? Because I have.
I'm
It's
afraid
pretty
walking on
scary.
the floor in
It's
there.
pretty scary.
I thought you
There's a
said
lally
that.
column
He
that,
doesn't need the higher ladder because we don't have any buildings that are that high. So
yeah.
The point is, it's a 120-year-old building. It was built for a horse-drawn fire truck. So I don't disagree with our need, but that's not something we can do. I think it's we move some of the. But there's the long-term planning piece,
Yeah.
right? Let's get rid of something that we're currently paying for, and then we can put the next building in there.
That's
and
all
I
I was-
know that they're saying.
That's all I was saying is that
Yeah.
that could come up. Something could happen, right? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
And if you're 3 years, a year and a half into a 3-year plan and something happens,
There's a building
right now
behind
where
it, right?
everything's moving
There's a
so
big
much.
building right there, and then we start charging rent for the people that have stuff in there.
There's just a lot of moving
You talking the
parts.
Armory,
right
Al?
now.
What's that?
Are you talking about the
Yeah,
Armory?
yeah.
Mostly it's the DPW that's in there now.
Yeah, when they move back into the new house, I mean,
Yes, as soon as
Yeah.
the winter,
Right.
some winter walls come down, they can go back into the building.
But that 3 to 5 year plan is really,
Yeah.
it's a cyclical process. Then you have to have a long-term capital plan, which is, all right, do we need new roof on the library?
Well-
What about the building we're in right now?
That was
Great
crazy
old-
to me to hear that the town hasn't had just a great capital.
I know.
Okay, right now, we've got, Mike
Sorry.
Andrews has the floor.
Yep.
Sorry, yeah, no, it's just, it was crazy to me to hear the town has never put money aside towards stuff in the future, and that we're just talking about allocating money to the future now that we are in the middle of about to do 3 big projects. It's like, okay,
Someone wasn't paying attention a decade or so ago.
Mhm.
Jason, you want to
good time
contribute?
to start.
No, I
Good time to start saving money.
I actually forget where I left off. actually.
Well, welcome to my world. Mike Flanagan?
I'm good.
You're good. Anything else that we want to discuss, gentlemen? I think next, it's good for us, and I'll put it on the agenda, for us to have a discussion on the multi-year versus the 1 year.
And we'll have more information.
We will, and I completely support Mike's request that every department come up with a 3-year plan, because I've asked for it from capital, and I get it. There's a department head who will remain nameless who said can't do it because the numbers change, and I said I don't care about the numbers. I just want to know, what do you need? If the increase in the cost goes up, everybody knows the cost is going to go up. But what do you need? Don't come in. Oh, you had a brilliant comment 2 years ago that it was like you go to this checkout stand and you see this thing that you have a coupon for, that it's not on your shopping list, but hey, I got a coupon for this, so I'm going to buy it. It's like, is it on your capital plan? Is it on your 5-year plan? Then don't buy it.
I've been applying for
I saved
this. My God,
I saved
now we need
20%,
to-
yeah, but it cost you $20 million to save the 20%.
So was the select
Felt
board,
good about that one, huh?
last time we had met, they seemed fairly divided. I think there was only 4 of them at the table, but it seemed like they were kind of split across the board, 2 for a 1-year ask, and I don't remember who the other 2 were.
Yeah, we just had a joint meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry I couldn't be there.
No,
That's a lot.
You were there.
Strike that from the.
It's still,
Did they still? My question is, are they still fairly divided on what they're?
they're still drifting.
They
Yeah.
want to put it on us, as what John Galvin would say.
Yep.
Put it on us, and then we should put it on them, back into the selectmen. This is our proposal, we need,
Well, that's why
you
I
need to
asked for more
execute it,
information.
talk to the department
You're
heads.
only telling
You need to get that answer to Kathleen and our committee to move it forward. This is what our recommendation is, get them to fall in line, and that's your job, not our job. It's our recommendation to tell the selectmen, this is what we need, and this is our recommendation,
Well, I was going to say, be careful what you ask for. If you want us to come up with the budget,
But that's what it is.
come up with the budget, and you may not
look
like
back at
it.
the hindsight, except we
So-
didn't have a lot of control. We worked back and forth with them past, 5, 6 years, you've been on it.
Yeah.
You've seen it, Chuck, too, as well.
Yeah.
It was going back and forth. They wanted the control, and they had it. And we,
Yeah.
Yep.
My first few years on this committee, there was a couple of people, the former town administrator and the former finance chair. It seemed to me they worked very closely together and kind of, I won't say ran everything, but they did a decent job, and the select board wasn't really involved that often. And then when we started to get involved together, it seemed like they really, we talked, we thought we were on the same page, but at the last, just before town meeting, ideas changed or thoughts changed, and usually they won't, they would take a little bit more control and step away from all the work we did. We had a couple of years where we worked and worked and worked, came up with some pretty good ideas and recommendations, only to see it just, no, we're going to do something else.
The rug was pulled out from under our
Right from
feet.
under us.
Like-
So it's a little frustrating that now, I mean, I'm sorry I wasn't there for this tonight, and so I didn't get
It's on
to
tape.
absorb all that.
Yeah.
But, it sounds like now that they saying, oh, what should we do?
Yes.
Yes,
You
we're
guys,
looking for
finance
advice
committee,
from
what
the
should we do? Well,
Well, it was also stirred up by when I forget the gentleman's
John Galvin?
Yeah,
John.
stood up and said, "This is how it should be," and then it was kind of just turned to us like, "Well, that's what we want," and that was the first time we're, wait, is that what you want, or
Be careful what you ask
right?
for. I'll give it to
Well,
you.
that's why I asked.
We
I'm
will
gonna
give it
need
to you.
both. Then I'm gonna need to see your 3-year plan
Yeah.
because this was
Yeah.
the meeting you were supposed to
There
bring
you
us
go.
the 3-year plan, and you are just telling me about a 1-year plan still.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, we still haven't received an actual budget. Last year, and I know you were principal and pushing for that, we had an Excel version of the entire budget.
Yep.
All the things that were turned in, we had it for these meetings every
Yes.
single time, and we could compare what they gave us that night
Yeah.
to what was submitted. We don't.
they was just been okay on a 1 year. Like that, it was just.
You don't have the fiscal 26 budget? Ooh, I do. So I'll be emailing that to you as well. And I believe it was up, I asked Mary Beth, I do talk to her on a regular basis. We've tried to have weekly meetings. Most of them have been phone conversations in the last few weeks, but in-person meetings. And I've met with her and Sean prior to like September and August. I met with them to share with Sean that schools do not have to accept any advice we give them on some formula. The schools are autonomous, so don't spend a lot of time coming up with the ideal formula for the Whitman-Hanson School Assessment. But having the superintendent there tonight, I think, was huge. He's been more engaged with the meetings. He's completely informed in terms of what the financial constraints are on the town of Whitman. And I thanked him for coming because it gives some credibility to his budget. It's like, I've been going there and I know what your constraints are. So I think this is a better year, that people are showing up, there's more communication, and that's never a bad thing. And so I just have to make sure that it's not just I who was receiving this information. So I'll email that all out to you as well.
I think we got an early one.
What was that, Mike?
I think we had an early one.
Something from December 17th, I think.
That's December 17th we had one, but it was not complete.
No,
And
no.
we were waiting for the final, or a working version.
Yes.
We never saw that.
That I received today at maybe noon. At noon.
Good.
Okay, yeah.
Send that
Yeah,
out.
we just had the blanket level funded, which were all just numbers that some will be that, but we know some will not.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know what this stuff is.
Apparently that's when we go to town meeting, we have actual little sticky things now, so.
Okay. This all looks like stuff I left on
That
the
might be
table.
correspondence.
Okay, Al, this is yours.
Yeah.
Mike, this is yours.
Oh,
And I see
It's an
What is it?
invitation to the school budget presentation on the 12th.
oh, good.
Al, this is yours. I picked up everything.
Yeah, save it on mailing.
I picked up everything in our.
Side note, our company, we just did the census for City of Lowell, and we do the Newton, all these.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to leave these
I
right
do
here.
have a point to bring out. I will not be present next week. I'll be in Florida. Sorry, everybody. But I'm working for the week down there. So, assuming that you may not be able to be back, Chuck, would you be willing to have her call your phone and
Yeah.
Yeah.
again,
I
love
plan-
to have you
I
here.
plan to be here.
Okay, but just in case, I want to back up.
Yeah.
Just in-
Yeah, I saw the emails.
Okay.
I
Yep.
didn't see the emails.
I will call in. Al, you're planning on calling in?
What's that?
You
Yeah,
won't be.
I'm gonna phone. I might be on Percocets. I'm just kidding. I'm doing hip surgery on Friday morning, so
Yep.
I should be okay on Tuesday.
What did I tell you? Getting old is not for sissies?
What's that?
I texted you, getting old is not for sissies.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Who's on the agenda for next week?
Oh, I'm sorry, closed it down. Town administrator.
Yep.
It's a big one.
Animal control and town
I
admin.
haven't
Not
heard
necessarily that
anything from
order.
the animal control.
I think you're not apt to. She
Yeah,
attended
I
our
do.
meeting 1 year. I recall her presentation. It was memorable. And since then, she has not appeared.
Okay.
And she's missed a couple of select board meetings, so
So we have the animal control, but through Mary Beth.
Mary Beth will report on
Yeah,
it.
she's going to give the report on animal control as well.
So next week is, again, it's a nice light week. It's just one,
Yep.
but a very important presentation by town administrator.
Yes.
The following week is the town clerk, who did give me her budget, but it's not electronically. We'll just,
Just told you as you walked past.
and then the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District is that night at 7:45, so that gives, the town clerk a half an hour to make her presentation. March 18th, we have the Conservation Commission is confirmed. Planning Board and Historical Commission, we still haven't heard from them. I'll look and see who those contact people are and send them an email saying, are you planning to join us?
Is that
Historical
updated
Commission, I
on
think-
schedule?
Pardon
We
me?
have an updated schedule? Can we send those?
Resend it as well.
I'm working from
I
one
was gonna
that,
say 25th, 24th.
25th.
I'll have to do it at home.
I think I
don't
received
have-
it from Mike,
Yeah, I just
okay?
don't have
And-
town email on my phone.
Yeah, I don't have.
I
Well,
don't
you-
either.
Wouldn't like
You can't now because there's a new government regulation that you cannot have another email account on the same like mail program, or because I put it on and all my other mail contacts, calendar blown
Oh, my
away.
goodness.
I'm like, oh, you're killing me.
Okay,
So I'll do it from home, but I'll resend everybody.
okay, Mike, thanks.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the capital committee,
I guess, I like that.
Don Essen is planning to present the capital committee's recommendations on April 8th, which is late. But we're meeting on the 6th of March and the 20th of March to wrap up the capital committee's deliberations on the requests that we've received. And when I talk to Mary Beth later this week, I'll see when she thinks the 4I meetings will be scheduled, the information meetings that will be scheduled, and hopefully they will be well attended, so that those people, and I don't go on social media because I just get stressed out, so it's like, if you think you can do a better job, apply for this position, run for select board, see how easy it is to come up with a budget that taxpayers will support but will provide the services that the town wants and needs. So I think information meetings will be very useful, and I look forward to working with Mary Beth to organize those and see what cast of characters makes the presentation.
And those dates will be to be determined.
Well, at that meeting, it was like late March, early April is what Carl was talking about. And by then, we will have met with, other than capital committee, we will have met with all the budget managers, so we'll know what people are asking for. And on March 25th, we meet with the select board again, and then when we reconvene here at 7 o'clock, that may be the night for us to start really digging into the budget to say, where are we on this budget, folks? I'll have a better idea of what the budget gap is. Mary Beth will update it. She also doesn't have budgets from a couple of people, and she's the boss. So, Chuck?
Just a question, with all these budget numbers, but does anybody know how all the negotiations for all the contracts that are up?
No.
Because that'll,
No. They have a 2.5% placeholder,
yeah.
and Mary Beth, the town received a grant that allows the administrator to plug in how much a 1% increase will cost across the board, how much a 0.5% increase, so they can predict, including the step increases. So this was a major, instead of signing a contract and saying, wait a sec, that it happened to the fire department a few years ago. A significant number of firefighters went to that next step, and it wasn't, they didn't plan it, they didn't think it through. Like, we have 10 guys who are going to make it to the 15-year mark, and they're going to go to the next step.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a 2.5% increase, it was a step, and then a 2.5 times however many individuals were affected.
So this is a tool that'll give a better number, so we're
Absolutely.
not surprised.
She knows how much it's going to cost. I've been impressed. I enjoy working with her, even though we were on opposite sides last May. She works very hard.
Yep.
And is honest. She's open and honest. Gives me the information I ask for if she can. Some stuff is confidential, but if anything I ask for, she's really very forthcoming. So.
You're getting better, that's why. We need you better and stronger.
Right. Is
Well,
there
you're looking a little bit like your old self right now.
Well, my brother's
Welcome back.
been taking me out for walks.
Now we have another lady on the team here now.
Yes,
We don't have the other
yes.
lady here. She's getting a little nervous up there.
You guys did not. You never intimidated me. Don't even think.
Stay active though. That's important.
Yeah.
Walking,
The walking.
continuing, continuing movement,
Yeah,
body motion.
absolutely.
You're not just gonna stay
Yeah.
in motion. Very
Exactly.
important.
We'll use it.
I did have one more question.
Sure.
When does Rick typically send that email to you? When should I expect to hear
It's
from
normally
Rick?
the Saturday after we ask that question, so probably this Saturday would be my guess.
Rick.
I can tell when the building committee is meeting,
Yeah.
and then it's almost within 48 hours he'll write
He'll
the
send-
report and send it. So
Okay.
yeah.
When's their next meeting?
I don't know, but every time we ask the question, it's like, oh, here it is, so like the next day.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably listening to
Yeah.
us.
Yes, he will.
Fun.
I have one last thing.
Okay, Chuck.
So over here, we have, in attendance, we have Don Byers, school committee member. And I did note that you are, not going to rerun, you're not running.
That's right, I'm gonna give someone else a
Yeah.
turn.
You're not running?
Just like that.
I saw that,
Oh,
so,
wow, why?
so I just want to take a moment to
Yeah.
to thank Dawn. She's obviously done a great job on the school committee, and she's coming here, and she's been a good listener, and she's helped out here. And I remember when you started on the school committee. What's it been, 6 years?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
2019 in May.
Yeah.
And
So,
we entered COVID.
so and it's yeah.
Two terms.
Yeah.
And I just felt like,
She did an
But-
excellent
someone else
job.
has
She's always
gotta
there,
take the seat,
Good
right?
job.
Yeah.
I hold the seat,
You
Yeah.
gonna join our team here? Is there an opening?
Well, I'm not leaving the town of Whitman,
No,
so
you join the
you'll
team
see
here.
me around.
Why don't you join the team here? Is there any openings?
So yeah. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, it's-
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Very, very well deserved praise, Dawn. Thank you.
Chair, if I may, I want to
Absolutely.
follow up with Mike Warner here, because I
Uh-oh.
do like your suggestion on the 1 year, 3 year, and actually capturing both, if you will, the way you said it, because I think you're right, to do a 3 year now, you want to have that concrete information, you just don't have it. So to do 1 year with the understanding, and we're working towards getting a good number to capture everything over, the long term for an override, that's needed capital-wise, operating-wise. It's just, and there's no, I heard Superintendent Hickey say he's got 10-year capital plan, right? He just gave that to you. So it's possible. You're asking for 3 years. In the school district tomorrow, if you want to tune in, I will be sitting at the table. We're meeting tomorrow. And this is our strategic plan. It's on the district website. I carry it with me, literally, because this means so much to me. Thanks, Chuck, for recognizing it. Because, when I signed up, I'm in it, right? I'm in this, and our own strategic plan says that the school district will provide a 5-year budgetary projection and a 5-year capital matrix.
Yep.
And I'll tell you right now, as an elected school committee member, I haven't seen that 5-year matrix. So tomorrow night, I need to hold my own superintendent accountable. I do. And, it's not easy to do, sitting at the table and say, look, because you think I'm supposed to be like, don't let anyone know. We're not doing what we're even saying we do. And we need to help ourselves, right? If we have this. And I'm sure he probably has that, right? I hope he has it somewhere on his computer, and that his facilities and our facilities have that. But
Where is
are we
this?
sharing it, right? Do you have it? So,
Well, thank you, Chuck,
yeah,
for
good luck with the 1 year and the override, and you all do the right thing.
Thank you, Dawn,
Thank
for
you.
continuing to contribute.
That'd be an interesting one. If you can get that 5-year plan, you could show it to us, if you wouldn't mind. We might need that. We have no control over what they do, but it'd be nice to know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will pour through it if it's made available to me and synthesize it down for the
You said $66 million?
Yep.
Yeah, so we'd like to see that.
Well,
I would
If you
too.
wouldn't mind, Don.
I have that, which I will send to the committee, but
Yeah.
if there's nothing else that we need to discuss, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:20.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Beth.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yes.
And welcome, Ann.